we start as always. We will start by invoking the presence of God and Gurus here with us and a chant. Closing our eyes, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, beloved Gurudev, Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, dear friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. Dear Master, guide our thoughts, words, and actions. We offer our lives, surrendering our thoughts, our actions, every aspect of our life in thy hands. Guide us, bless us, bring us home, introduce us to God. We are thine, be thou eternally ours. Om Shanti Shanti.
What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, Mother? What lightning flash glimmers in thy face? Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, Mother? What lightning flash glimmers in thy face? Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, Mother? What lightning flash glimmers in thy face? Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, Mother? What lightning flash glimmers in thy face? Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, Mother? What lightning flash glimmers in thy face? Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. See. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, Mother? What lightning flash glimmers in thy face? Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through.
Just pausing for a moment. Please unmuted. Pausing here for a moment, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows. Just tune into these beautiful words of this chant. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, Mother. Seeing thee, I am thrilled through and through. Just visualize this. Mother Nature, the mother aspect of God, giving us bountiful, unconditional love, brighter than 1,000 suns, yet very cooling, very calm. All those saints who could see her in the manifested form, of how Master would have felt when he wrote this chant, visualizing her or even seeing her, seeing the I am thrilled through and through. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So in the last chapter, we saw work versus meditation, where Swamiji writes about attitudes that are needed as a disciple and how through various stories that are mentioned there, Master tried to teach his disciples how to do seva. Like, if you even being busy, yet being very calm, always in God remembrance. And otherwise you lose what even the work that you, if you think of it as a work, if it is stressing us out, it is not seva, right? So with that, now the next chapter, the ministry. Again, there are a lot of insights. Last class, we had so many takeaways, which we had written down in the group also. And now we will read with Swamiji, reading it out for us, the chapter, the ministry, and then we will discuss it.
Chapter 26, The Ministry. You might like to know something of the history of our Hollywood church, Master remarked to me one day, now that you are lecturing there regularly. Naturally, sir, I replied, I'm eager to learn everything I can about our work. We built the church during the war. New construction wasn't allowed at that time, but we were able to build legally anyway by renovating an old structure. We bought an old church and had it moved onto our property. The building was a mere shell. Master chuckled how the neighbors howled. But we fixed it up, stuccoing the walls, fixing the roof, painting everything beautifully, and putting in valuable stained glass windows. At last the building acquired a completely new look. Master paused reminiscently. Finding those windows was a real blessing from God. I wanted stained glass, but everyone insisted, you can't get that now, there's a war on. Still, I knew we would get it. One morning God showed me in a vision where our windows were sitting, just waiting for us. They were in an old junkyard. I went there. I'm sorry, said the owner, we have no stained glass here. But I knew better. Just look once, I pleaded. I told you, he said, losing patience. We haven't any. Growling, he stalked away. I went over to an assistant who was standing nearby and asked him if he knew of any stained glass in the place. Boss say no, he replied. His body stooped with lifelong unwillingness. Must be no. Here, $5, I told him. I'll give them to you if you take me where I want to go. At this he agreed. Together we went out into the backyard. There, gathering dust against a far wall, was an assortment of old doors and a miscellany of other items, but no sign of any stained glass windows. You see, the man said, lifting his head in an attitude of vindication, boss say no, must be no. Just pull those things away, I requested. Let's have a look at what's behind them. Boss say, he began a third time. Then he remembered those $5 I'd offered him. Willingness may not have been his strong point, but finally, moaning and groaning, he moved everything out into the yard. And there at last, right up against the wall, were our stained glass windows. In their present condition they looked like nothing but junk. The glass panes were in place, but they were all hanging loosely and covered with filth. The owner let me have the lot of them for next to nothing. We fixed them up carefully, however. Miss Darling, later Durga Mata, saved us thousands of dollars by framing and gold-leafing them herself. And now, well, you can see how beautiful they are. I am told they are valuable. One would never suspect the church of having such a grey past, I remarked, smiling. It now looked like a charming jewel, immaculate in its white, blue, and gold colors. Set well back from the road, it was fronted by a pleasant garden. Unquestionably, it was now an asset to the neighborhood. Master continued, the church carpet came from God also. This carpet, a soothing dark blue, covered the entire floor of the church. I had long admired it. Master went on to explain, I had wanted a beautiful carpet because I think that if theaters can be designed beautifully to remind one of the beauties of this world, then God's places should be designed even more beautifully to remind one that He is the source of all beauty. My wish was for a rich blue carpet like the one we used to have in our Encinitas temple. I sent people scouting everywhere, but no one found anything that resembled it. I myself then telephoned the company that had sold us that first carpet. "Oh, I'm sorry," a voice said. "The man from whom you bought that one went out of business." "Who is this speaking?" I inquired. It proved to be that man's former business partner. He was just about to hang up when he paused. "Say," he exclaimed, "I've just remembered that we still have a piece of that very carpet you bought left in our warehouse. How much did you say you needed?" 101 yards, I replied. He went and measured his remnant. It came to exactly 102 yards. I have often said, Master concluded, that out of the loss of our Encinitas temple came 2 more temples, this one in Hollywood and our church in San Diego. Just the other day a visitor remarked to me, "What a pity that you lost your Encinitas temple." I answered, "It was the best thing that ever happened to me. You see, it forced me to bring these teachings out more widely into the world. And look, even the carpet in our new church came out of the very carpet that had been in the old one." By June 1949, I was conducting midweek services more or less regularly in the Hollywood church. Soon afterward, I also gave occasional Sunday services, both there and in San Diego. A problem for any new speaker is how to avoid a feeling of nervousness in front of an audience. I never really had any problem that way, but the fact that I was so young, and looked even younger, was certainly no advantage to me. The average age of my listeners was about 40. I could count on their knowing a great deal more about most things than I. My concern was more for them, I think, stuck as they were with having to listen to me. A.B. George, a disciple in Hollywood, of whom we were all particularly fond, suggested a solution. Deeply devoted, a beautiful soul, Master called him. A.B. also had a colorful sense of humor and an unusual way of expressing it. "It's very simple," he explained with mock earnestness. "No, hey, I mean it," he persisted laughingly to forestall my anticipated objections. "It really is simple. All that you got to do is picture to yourself all of them there people in front of you as a bunch of cabbage heads. That's all. Just say to yourself, you uns out there, nothing but a bunch of cabbage heads like that." I thanked him doubtfully. James Culler, the minister of our church in Phoenix, offered another suggestion. I was so nervous when I first started lecturing, he said, that Master suggested I take a hot bath before my talks to relax. One evening I was supposed to give an introductory lecture to a series of public classes. The announced subject was, "What Yoga Can Do for You." Well, I took a long hot bath beforehand. Too long, James added, chuckling, and too hot. It sapped all my energy. I arrived to that lecture so limp that I felt more like a steam-heated towel than a human being. After 5 minutes of speaking, I found I'd covered everything I could think of to say on the subject. It was probably the shortest talk those people had ever listened to. Next, Horace took up a collection. He's spastic, you know. After my 5-minute talk on what yoga can do for you, my only assistant went staggering from row to row with the collection plate, clutching at the backs of chairs for support. This story, told with much laughter, left us holding our sides in merriment. It hadn't seemed quite so funny to his audience, however. They got up and left without uttering a word. Fortunately, the episode had a more gratifying sequel. One man, after leaving the room, returned to it, moved by James's obvious goodness and sincerity. This man later became a devoted follower of Master's work. Well, anyway, James concluded, addressing me, you might try soaking yourself in hot water before your lectures. His story, I confessed, had left me somewhat less than reassured. The solution I myself found to whatever problem I might have had with nervousness was to imagine the worst audience response possible and then accept it. In short, to be willing to appear a fool. This is all God's dream anyway, I reminded myself before a lecture. So what does it matter whether people accept me or reject me? Indifference to the fruits of my efforts proved the solution to any possible problem of nervousness, but it didn't help in the far more important matter of communicating with my listeners. For in telling myself it was all a dream, I ended up not really caring whether I spoke well or not. Footnote: the Hindu teaching that life is a dream is intended to inspire non-attachment, not irresponsibility. Even in a dream, after all, it is preferable to dream wisely. In the cosmic dream delusion, man must act as a willing instrument of God, the divine dreamer, before he can win the right to eternal wakefulness in him. Only gradually did I become a conscientious speaker, as I began to see the people I was speaking to as manifestations of God. It was through them, rather than by appearing before them, that I was being asked to serve Master. This thought cured me also of a temptation that is common to public speakers, to be satisfied if the points they make are convincing to themselves. In seeing God manifested in the forms of my listeners, and in the realization that what I had to say was a service to Him through them, it became important to me to express myself in a way that would reach His consciousness in them. At first I used to pray before every lecture, "Lord, inspire me to say what you want said." Later I learned to ask Him also, "Help me to sense what this particular audience needs to hear through me." Often sensing needs different from those I had come prepared to address, I would give a completely different talk from the one I had intended. Indeed, I learned in time to prepare only minimally, if at all, for my lectures, for I found that an open mind enabled me to respond more sensitively to the unvoiced needs of my listeners. The results of this approach were gratifying. Many people thanked me after my lectures for answering some specific question of theirs, or for dealing with problems that had been weighing on their minds, I always shared with them the real secret of my success. God is the doer. For it was in this thought above all that Master trained us. A quote from the Bible as a footnote: "Take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given unto you in that same hour what ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father, which speaketh in you." Matthew 10:19 and 20. When I was first learning to lecture, Master gave me the following words of advice. Before lecturing, meditate deeply. Then, holding on to that meditative calmness, think about what you intend to say. Write down your ideas. Include one or two funny stories, because people are more receptive if they can enjoy a good laugh. Then finish with a story from the SRF lessons. After that, put the subject out of your mind. While speaking, keep mentally before you the salient points of your outline, but above all, ask the Spirit to flow through you. In that way you will draw inspiration from that inner source, and will not speak from ego. Most important of all to Master was the question of our attunement while we lectured, in order that we might share with our listeners not only our ideas, but our vibrations. Late one Thursday afternoon, he spied Dr. Lewis out on the grounds in Encinitas, enjoying a stroll. "Doctor," he called out, "aren't you giving the service this evening?" "Yes, sir," Dr. Lewis called back. "Then what are you doing roaming about? You should be meditating." In time, I was able actually to feel a power flowing outward from my attunement with Master, filling any room or auditorium in which I might be lecturing. If the hall was large, I could feel his vibrations reach all the way to the back. If anything I said touched my listeners, the credit, I knew, was due to this power, far more than to whatever actual words I uttered. During Master's early years in the West, thousands came to his public lectures. When he built churches, however, he made them small, sweet in their simplicity. Smallness, he felt, is more conducive to worship. It permits a sense of inwardness, of closeness to God. Master told us of a visit he had once paid to a large, well-known cathedral in the American Midwest. "I was admiring it," he said, "when I heard God's voice asking, 'Would you rather have all this without me?' Or," here a vision appeared, in which I saw myself seated on the ground under a tree, a handful of disciples gathered about me, "this with me." "Lord," I prayed, "only where thou art do I want to be." The Master often remarked that an emphasis on large, expensive places of worship and on crowds of worshippers necessitates too much concentration on money and too little on humble, inward communion with God. The church system has to be revised, he told us. Outward pomp must be replaced by simplicity, and huge cathedrals by small temples where sincere devotees gather for meditation. The well-educated minister of a large modern congregation may lecture eloquently, but if he never meditates and has no inward realization of God's presence, what is the use of his eloquence? His D.D. degree in this case stands for nothing but Doctor of Delusion. If I went to a restaurant that had a good name, but that didn't have the kind of food I wanted, what good would it do me? I'd come away as hungry as I had entered. So what is the use of a famous church if it is spiritually dead? What is the good of a beehive without honey? He then told us, "You are on the eve of a great change. You will see the entire church movement undergo a revolution. Churches will become places where real souls will go to commune with God. Sometimes with great merriment he paraphrased a story from the novel Heavenly Discourse by Charles E. Wood. His version of the tale went something like this. When Billy Sunday, the famous evangelist, died and went to heaven, St. Peter wouldn't let him enter the pearly gates, demanding instead, "What did you do on earth to deserve admission here?" "Why," Billy Sunday protested, "what about all those thousands I sent up here from my revival meetings?" "You may have sent them," St. Peter retorted, "but they never arrived." In Milwaukee, Master told us, I was once taken to a church where a choir sang especially for me. Afterwards, one of the singers asked me, "How did you like our singing?" "It was all right," I said. "You mean you didn't like it?" "I didn't say that," I replied, "but please don't press me further." Well, he kept on insisting, so at last I explained. "As far as technique went, you were perfect. But you weren't thinking of the one for whom that sacred music was written. You were thinking of pleasing me. Next time you sing devotional music, think of God. Don't sing to impress others." Master's own services were rich with inspiration. They conveyed none of the orphaned feeling one encounters in many churches of a God living far off in some unimaginable heaven, or of a Jesus Christ who left no more vital testimony to his continuing reality than the printed words in the Bible. In Master's presence, divine truths came thrillingly alive, made vibrant with the immediacy of his own God-realization. "You are a good salesman," an American businessman once exclaimed to him after one of his lectures. "That," Master replied, "is because I have first sold myself." Some of my most impressive memories of Master are of his public lectures. While they lacked the sweet intimacy of his talks with the disciples, they rang with the spirit of a mission destined, he told us, to bring spiritual regeneration to the world, a new path in the sense of a teaching geared to the attitudes and understanding of this new age of energy. I remember especially how stirred I was by a talk he gave at a garden party in Beverly Hills on July 31st, 1949. Never had I imagined that the power of human speech could be so overwhelming. It was the most moving talk I have ever heard. "This day," he thundered, punctuating every word, "marks the birth of a new era. My spoken words are registered in the ether, in the Spirit of God, and they shall move the West. Self-realization has come to unite all religions. We must go on, not only those who are here, but thousands of youths must go north, south, east, and west to cover the earth with little colonies, demonstrating that simplicity of living plus high thinking lead to the greatest happiness." I was stirred to my very core. It would not have surprised me had the heavens opened up and a host of angels come streaming out, eyes ablaze to do his bidding. Deeply I vowed that day to do my utmost to make his words a reality. 20 years later, with his inner help and by the grace of God, I was able to start the first of what have since become several thriving communities. Often during the years I was with Master, he exhorted his audiences to fulfill his cherished dream, to found world brotherhood colonies or spiritual cooperative communities, not monasteries merely, but places where people in every walk of life could devote themselves to living for God. Environment is stronger than willpower, he often told us. He saw world brotherhood colonies as environments for fostering right spiritual attitudes, such as humility, trust, devotion, respect for others, and friendly cooperation. For people with worldly responsibilities who want a better way of life, small cooperative communities offer the best hope of fulfilling that desire and also of demonstrating to society at large that people can indeed achieve heights so scornfully repudiated in this age of spiritual underachievers. Such communities, Master said, would emphasize cooperative attitudes rather than egoic social and political rights, and present-day norms of cutthroat competition. Take the best advice I can give you, he said. Gather together those of you who share high ideals. Pool your resources. Buy land out in the country. A simple life will bring you inner freedom. Harmony with nature will bring you a happiness known to few city dwellers. In the company of other truth-seekers, you will find it easier to meditate and think of God. What is the need for all the luxuries with which people surround themselves? Most of what they have, they are paying for on the installment plan. Their debts are a source of unending worry to them. Even people whose luxuries have been paid off are not free. Attachment makes them slaves. They consider themselves freer for their possessions and don't see how, in turn, their possessions now possess them. He added, the day will come when this colony idea will spread through the world like wildfire. In the overall plan for his work, Paramhansa Yogananda saw individual students first receiving the SRF lessons and practicing Kriya Yoga in their own homes. Then in time-forming spiritual centers, where they could meet once or twice weekly for group study and meditation. In areas where there was enough interest to warrant it, he wanted SRF churches to be built, perhaps with full or part-time ministers. And where there were enough sincere devotees to justify it, his dream was that they would buy land and live cooperatively, serving God and sharing the spiritual life together on a full-time basis. As I mentioned in Chapter 17, Master had wanted to start a model World Brotherhood colony in Encinitas. He felt so deeply the importance of this communitarian dream that for some years it was the nucleus of his every plan for the work. Indeed, ruler though he was of his mental processes, even he on one occasion became caught up in a whirlwind of enthusiasm for this project. He told a congregation one Sunday morning, I got so involved last night in thinking about World Brotherhood colonies that my mind got away from me. But, he added, I chanted a little, and it came back. Another measure of his interest may be seen in the fact that the first edition of Autobiography of a Yogi ended with a ringing statement of his hopes to found such a colony. Brotherhood, he wrote in that edition, quoting a discussion he had had with Dr. Lewis in Encinitas, is an ideal better understood by example than precept. A small, harmonious group here may inspire other ideal communities over the earth. He concluded, far into the night, my dear friend, the first Kriya Yogi in America, discussed with me the need for world colonies founded on a spiritual basis. Alas, he encountered an obstacle that has stood in the way of every spiritual reformer since the Buddha, human nature. Marriage has always tended to be a somewhat closed corporation. The economic depression of the 1930s had the effect on a whole generation of Americans of heightening this tendency by increasing their desire for family security. Us foreign no more was the way Yogananda described their attitude. America in general wasn't yet ready for world brotherhood colonies. A further difficulty lay in the fact that his work was already in the grip of monastic disciples who set the tone for all the colonies. Householders couldn't match their spirit of self-abnegation and service. Families were, so to speak, crowded out of the communal garden by the more exuberant growth of plants of renunciation. And Yogananda was too near the end of his life mission to fulfill elsewhere his World Brotherhood Colony dream. "Encinitas is gone," he lamented toward the end of his life. It was not that the ashram was lost. What he meant was that his plans for founding a World Brotherhood Colony on those sacred grounds would not be fulfilled, at least not during his lifetime. He stopped accepting families into the ashrams, which he now turned into full-fledged monasteries. It was in his renunciate disciples that he had found that spirit of selfless dedication which his mission needed for its ultimate success. Nevertheless, the idea of brotherhood colonies remained important to him. It was, as he had put it during that stirring speech in Beverly Hills, in the ether, in the spirit of God. Kamala Silva, in her autobiography, The Flawless Mirror, reports that as late as 5 months before he left his body, he spoke to her glowingly of this dream. He knew that his dream must, in time, be fulfilled. Even with regard to so basic a part of his mission as World Brotherhood Colonies, however, Master was completely free from anxiety. He never saw the world as most people see it. To him, this is all God's play, a seemingly endless show of shadows and light in a divine motion picture. I remember the evening that he recorded some of his chants for public release. Partway through that recording session, I was obliged to leave for a class I was giving at the Hollywood Church. On my return, I found Master standing outside on the lawn, listening to one of the chants being played back to him. "What lightning flash glimmers in thy face, mother? What lightning flash glimmers in thy face? Seeing thee I am thrilled through and through. Seeing thee I am thrilled through and through." Again and again he had the recording played over. Presently he began almost to dance, swaying to and fro ecstatically, his arms stretched sideways, waving to the rhythm of the music. He was blissfully engrossed in the beauty of Divine Mother, whom he perceived as wondrous light, spreading out to infinity. I was deeply moved. Afterwards, as he was taking leave of our little group, he said quietly, "I see all of you as images of light. Everything, these trees, bushes, the grass you are standing on, all are made of that light. You have no idea how beautiful everything is."
You have no idea how beautiful everything is. How differently the self-realized masters, the saints see, right? We get so caught up in this drama of life. He said this to me, she did that to me, and we are going round and round. But they see, how do they see us? He says, "I see all of you as images of God." Just beyond, all of us are just, we are actually shadows. We are blocking that light to flow, but we are all made of that light. Just that our ego has created this body of shadow, which is playing its drama on this planet. But unfortunately, we don't think of it as drama, where Swamiji writes, even though his master was so passionate about that mission to have world brotherhood colonies, says he was completely free from anxiety. I mean, it's an important attitude to have as we live this life. The saints come on this planet, the avatars come on this planet not to show how great they are, but what is our true potential? So if we want to be like them, we have to observe the qualities that they displayed. So he says he was completely free of anxiety. He never saw the world as most people see it. To him, this is all God's play, a seemingly endless show of shadow and light in a divine motion picture. I mean, if we can remember this, live our life with an attitude of this, always remembering that, I'm just here playing a part. This is all God's play. A lot of our anxieties will be gone, right? And before we go back to reading it, just close your eyes. I mean, this is such a beautiful thing where Master is standing outside in the lawn. It's night, stars glimmering, and the song is playing. What lightning flash glimmers in thy face. Swamiji writes again and again. He had the recording over. Just visualize Master. Presently, he began almost to dance, swaying to and fro ecstatically, his arms stretched sideways, waving to the rhythm of the music. He was blissfully engrossed in the beauty of Divine Mother, whom he perceived as wondrous light spreading out to infinity. And he sees each one of us, everyone, everything. He says, even the trees, the birds, the flowers, everything as just glimmering light, as just manifestation of that Divine Mother. And hence, there is this unconditional love, because he knows that we aren't this at all. We are just a manifestation of the Divine Mother who have forgotten who we really are. So, okay, so now we go back to the starting of this chapter where Master is telling Swamiji the story about how, he got the stained glass window and the carpet. Again and again, he's saying, this is a blessing from God. He's saying, the carpet, again, that was a blessing from God. And where he goes to, he knew exactly where to go, who to ask. And even though the man who was running the place, he didn't know, because it was, in junk somewhere. And he says, no, it is not there. This guy also is totally, and Master says, his body stooped with lifelong unwillingness. This is very important. That is, when in our path, we are always told when we sit down to meditate, roll your shoulders, pull your chest up, shoulders pulled back. That itself, one, our attitude changes the body's, the way we carry our body. Just looking at a person, we can make out what is the attitude he's carrying. And the way we carry the body can alter our attitude. It works both ways. So at all times, it's very important that we consciously make an attempt to have us, our spine straight, walk with, chest like a spiritual warrior, right? So Swamiji used to say that Anandamoyi Ma was very feminine, very, she was very petite. But when she walked, she was almost like a general walking, So, I mean, that was the kind of magnetism she had. Though, it was the body itself wasn't that, but it was the aura around her that was, and, with the spine straight. That is what we all need to project. And here he's saying, uh, when he says, I'll give you $5, I'll give them to you if you take me where I want to go. Master knew exactly where he will be finding that. He knew it because God told him. He was so, as we all know that he was an avatar, he was one with the divine consciousness. There was nothing, no veil, right? God and him is the same. So he knew where he will find it. So he took that guy there, despite that man not being willing, but that money made all the difference, and he found it. And similarly, he knew where to call. He knew exactly what he wanted for his carpet, and he found it. He says, and the attitude again, he says, the Encinitas, one day the temple just went into the sea, right? When somebody said, what a pity you lost your Encinitas temple, he said it was the best thing that ever happened. Attitude. seeing the positivity. If God is giving this, there is something really, you know, when we are on this path, we have taken a discipleship vow of avatar. So what comes our way is being given by my guru, and whatever happens is the best thing that can happen. If we can live with that attitude, again, most of our problems will be sorted. He says, it was the best thing that ever happened. You see, it forced me to bring these teachings out more widely into the world. And look, even the carpet in the new church came out from that very carpet that had been in that old one, right? There is such a connection. So, the more we are in tune, we can say, oh, that was master, and he's an avatar. He's always in tune with guru. What about me? I'm able to even understand what my guru is saying. The whole point is that is a practice, practicing the presence of God, practicing the presence of the guru, always trying to tune into in every situation, even a very small situation. Coffee, to drink coffee or tea, just, checking back. What do you think we should drink? Having that conversation going. This is very important. Master's, one of his primary foremost disciple, Rajrishi Janakananda, Master used to call him Saint Lin. He was a multi-millionaire, billionaire maybe. In those days, 1920s, he had multiple businesses going. And he would go into his office. He had a very difficult wife. So he would go to his office, put this thing on his door saying in conference, and he would be gone meditating in his room 3 hours till 11 o'clock. And, people would say that, God, we have so much to do and you're sitting here and meditating. And he said, because we have so much to do, I meditate. You see, because then you're so in tune, the intuitive levels are so high that like how master knew where he will find his, the stained glass window, where to call for that carpet. And that is what we need to practice. It's a muscle. The intuitive muscle is something that, we have to develop. For that, meditation is the base for this. So, and Rajrishi Janakananda, when master said he's Jivan Mukta, he's free. Even in being in the body, he was already free. So now Swamiji talks about how to overcome. He was playing the role. The seva was to spread the teachings of his guru. Right? He was a speaker. He had to give satsangs, and the problem of nervousness, where his other friends tell the hilarious stories of how they have tried to cope up with it, which never, Swamiji was not so convinced by how the solutions they were offering. And Swamiji says that I decided that, I'll be, so there is a difference here when he's talking about, this is God's dream. I think this is God's dream. So whatever happens, whatever those people, whether they accept me or reject me, it's okay, it doesn't affect me. Now, here is a very subtle difference he's talking about, where Krishna in Bhagavad Gita talks about Nishkam Karma. So it is about you put your everything into what you do. So you're very passionate about it. It's not like, oh, it doesn't matter anyway, what they think doesn't matter. So this is where the difference is. You're very involved. You put a lot of effort into what you're doing, and then, doing your best, and then you're okay with it. Whatever comes out of it doesn't matter. That is detached, being non-attached versus being indifferent. So what he was trying to do, he didn't get it right at that time probably. So he was being indifferent, that okay, it doesn't matter what they think. And so what happened is, he's saying my effort proved a solution to any, he was not nervous, yes, but he says it didn't help me in the far more important matter of communicating with my listeners. So that indifference with which he was talking, people could sense it. So he was not able to, they were not accepting what he was saying, or he was not able to reach them. The whole point of giving that talk was to reach them, right? So that is the difference we all need to remember. It doesn't mean there is a non-attachment doesn't mean being indifferent. You're putting your all. then the result is what you don't get attached to. And I did so much, I spoke so well, I hope they like it. That is where you withdraw from there. So he says only gradually I became a conscientious speaker, he says, when I began to see people as manifestation of God. When he is talking to them, is like he's talking to God in those speakers. And he says, in seeing God manifested in the form of my listeners, in the realization that what I had to say, even that was a service to him through them. Everything is a service to God. It became important to me to express in a way that would reach his conscience, his consciousness in them. Right? That's very important. He says, from saying that, inspire me to say what you want said. He started saying, help me to sense what this particular audience needs to hear through me. Swamiji said that when he would lecture, he would try to tune into so for that we need to be very sensitive. Again, meditation helps, right? The more we meditate, we do our kriya, so it brings us to a state where we are more sensitive. So he says he would try to assess what does this audience need to hear. So he's saying, even if I would have prepared something else, he would be talking something completely, because he was listening, he was tuning into that audience whom he saw as a manifestation of the manifestation of God himself. So he says, that is why he says, I wouldn't prepare too much. Now that is okay for Swamiji, because behind coming to this state where he says, I don't have to prepare, and we all have listened to so many talks of Swamiji, there will be a topic and it will be a long talk. He would go around the topic to another topic to another topic, and then he'll come back to that topic and he'll say, so as I was saying, for that it needs a lot of practice, a lot of knowledge, a lot of intuitive wisdom, right? So we can't just say, oh, Swamiji said you don't need to prepare. So we can't just go land where we have to say. Swamiji would say that if you have to talk for 5 minutes, you should prepare for a 1 minute, 1 hour talk. You should have a material that had 1 hour of thing, and from that becoming concise and talk for 5 minutes is what that is a kind of preparation that one has done. We have seen even today, Dhyanaji and Jayaji and all, when they have to talk, they make notes. They are so well prepared. They don't just land there. It takes a lot to come to where he says, I'm very open minded, and yet we again so we are prepared, very well prepared on various topics, and then we have to develop that sensitivity to understand what does this audience need to hear. And that is how he says, many people thank me afterwards for answering some specific question of theirs or dealing with problems that had been weighing on their minds, but they had not asked. And even I have had this experience when Jyotishji, Deviji, they come here for talks or listening to something. There will be some question on my mind, and I would find them talking about that. They because they are tuning into the audience. They know what this audience needs, what kind of questions are around their mind. So that is very important that people who are sharing should develop over a period of time. And he says, I always shared with them the real secret of my success, which is God is the doer. And that is what he says Master trained us to do. And Swamiji also tells about this funny story about one lady. He had given a lecture, I think it was in Switzerland, and that lady came and said, oh, it was so beautiful, you spoke so well. And he said, what does it do? She was like, really? So she took it too seriously, what he was saying. Again, here, it's not just people who are giving lectures or teaching a class or something, but even we who are serving, I mean, somebody who's just so there is a how to meditate class, and some we have to call people to say that come and attend, again tuning into what do they want. So it is not just only for the teachers or only those who are going to give satsang that this is an advice. All form of service that we do, and especially if we are in interaction with others, what is the necessary? asking God, Guru, to guide us. How do I serve this person who is here? That's very important. And Master, again, for those who are lecturing, he's given a beautiful, flow how to do it. Before lecturing, meditate deeply. Then holding on to the meditative calmness, think about what you intend to say. And beforehand, make notes. Read or listen to Master's talk, Swamiji's talk, right? Write down your ideas. Include one or two funny stories because people are more receptive. I have seen Swamiji, even Dhyanaji, they'll make you laugh. And when, people are very receptive, Swamiji will plant a very profound wisdom after that. And Dhyanaji also does this often when any of our talks. So that's again very helpful. Then finish with a story from lessons. He says, then put the subject out of your mind. Keep before you salient points of what you had prepared. But above all, he says, ask the Spirit to flow through you. In that way, you will draw inspiration from that inner source. Again, it's important that, I have prepared so much. So, I know this topic and I just say what I have to say. Let Master flow through it. Let it be like, use me as a channel, as an instrument for your grace, or what, the blessings that flow to the person or people who are in that room. So these are very important points that Swamiji, Master and Swamiji are sharing with us. And he says, most important of all, Master, through the Master of our attunement. Ultimately, it all boils down to that attunement with the Guru. So not just while lecturing, but in everything that we do, Master would make sure, like how Dr. Lewis, if and since you're giving lecture, what are you roaming around? Go meditate. So for everything, all that seva that we will be doing, it has to be grounded in meditation, in attunement has to, constant practice of the presence of God, Guru, asking him for guidance. These are very important points that he's pointing out. And he says, in time, I was actually able to feel a power flowing outward from my attunement with Master. That is what, if we look back on the classes that we attended and then we got our Kriya, very clearly, if I were to look back on that 8 to 9 months of classes that we did, really, how much do we remember what the teacher was telling us, right? What actually take is how I felt in that class. And that whole 8 to 9 months when I did my level 1, 2, 3, 4 classes, my teacher was at that time Dhanaji. And all the topics were covered, Raj Yoga and this and that. For me, the highlight was in one of her classes, she had this Chotu Tanpuri, and she sang God, God, God. It was so touching. It was so moving. I was so taken with that song. For me, the whole, that was the highlight of my classes that I did here. So this is what is very important. People remember how they felt. They might not remember what they heard. Most of us don't even know the attention span, everything. So we do remember here and there, but in a full thing, most important thing is how they felt. And that we can only communicate if we meditate, if we are in tune with the ray of this line of gurus. So we need to be very, very careful about this. So he says, if anything I said touched my listeners, the credit I knew was due to this power. What is the power? Power of my attunement with my Guru. Far more than whatever actual words I uttered. That's as I was just mentioning. So he says that then Master, he's talking about, the more than being, luxurious or, ostentatious. He's saying simplicity is more important. And it's talking about outward pomp versus simplicity. And here he says that, a minister, again, talking about that, a well-educated minister, it's not how well we have read a scripture or how well we are able to quote what Master said, what Swamiji said. But if we don't meditate, it has nothing. I mean, he's saying it is a doctor of delusion. That's a degree. He says that meditation is the cornerstone. Attunement to the Guru is the cornerstone of any service, and especially for somebody who is going to give lectures and satsang. This is something that we have to really remember. And it is like, if you're going to a restaurant that has a good name, but it is not, didn't have the kind of food I want to eat, I'll come away hungry, right? That is what it is. People will come, listen, nice words. Oh, Master said this, Swamiji said this, but there is no power behind it, which communicates the grace of Master, the blessings of Master to them, right? So he says, but the changes will come. It is, we have transitioned from Kali Yuga to Dwapar Yuga. So he's saying that, it's a new path in the sense of a teaching geared to the attitudes and understanding of this new age. That is what Master brought, that is that he went to West for this only. We are in the ascending Dwapar Yuga. That's passive acceptance of, oh, this is my karma, this is how life is, this is what is destiny. No, it is now we are in a age of energy. And he says that the attitudes, it is like, that's why he said, he liked the attitude of Americans. He said, they would say, eventually, why not now? So that is what attitude he said that, is what is needed. Even, when we want to find God, having that, oh, I'll meditate, yeah, when I grow old, whenever, why not now? Go for it. So, so he says here, again, when he talks about when we are singing, so we need to get the techniques right. We need to sing in tune, but more importantly, what gives that chant or the song the power is devotion to God, right? If that is there, it lacks anything in it, right? It's just, oh, nice, that's all. So he says that next time you sing devotional music, think of God. Don't sing to impress others. These are very important points as we serve, as we are, when we are singing, it doesn't matter, if I'm singing to myself, somebody who doesn't sing well, it's okay. But if we are, in singing for people in an audience, it's very important. We have to sing right. We have to get the technique right. But more importantly, what are we trying to do? Implant that love for God in those people. For that, we need to have it in ourselves so that we can share. So, okay, a little bit more left and then we'll finish. Okay, so here he says, when he's talking about the World Brotherhood communities, where Master used to often talk about it, as Smith said, and why he would keep saying that, people get together and, form the small or big spiritual communities, because environment is stronger than willpower. What are we trying to do who are on the spiritual path is so that we can progress further, we can meditate better. So he says that when you are with people, that is why satsang is so important. Satsang means being in the community or being with people who are truth seekers, right? So when we are, then we are able to be in that harmonious environment who are seeking the same thing that we are. So versus, if we are always with worldly people, we know it's like very restless out there, and a lot of temptations and desires. They're all going through various problems. So we get caught up in that, and that is why being with truth seekers. And again, he says, if you have resources, go gather people, resources, go into the country and grow your own things, because his Master kept that, you don't know such catastrophes. Swamiji also used to say, times are going to go very bad. Such catastrophe is going to come on this planet. So it's good to start growing your own thing, not dependent on anything. And also, again, we are talking about to progress on the spiritual life, to meditate better. For that, we all know that, country and city life, it's very restless, right? We go to a mall or something, you feel that vibration is so restless. And when we go, on a vacation to a place which is nice, serene, we are able to meditate better. Immediately we come to a state of calmness. And that is the reason he's saying, if you can afford to go to a country, because it is conducive to or harmonious for our spiritual life. And if you can be with people who are also seeking, it is just helping us to grow further on the spiritual uh, life. And Swamiji also talks about this in Japan, when America had bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There was this community of, they were following some spirituality thing. So there was this community which wasn't affected. That is the magnetism. I mean, people were dying all around, but that particular community, even though it was right there in that war situation and where the bomb was dropped, they were unaffected. That is the power of living in spiritual in satsang with people who are and that is why when he's talking, Swamiji says that communities can be made, but if it is not like Ananda, which Swamiji said, that when Master had said those words, and form you, all you young youths should go north south. After that, Swamiji would often talk to Daya Mata about this forming the spiritual, because Master had said, and she said, frankly, I'm not interested, and she wasn't interested. Probably this particular thing, he said, he was moved very deeply. Maybe the other disciples weren't moved by that, and which was okay for them. They were serving Master in what they could tune into. And probably this was Swamiji's mission, to take forward and form communities. And that is how he created Ananda, Ananda village. And then there is in Assisi, and in America, there are more villages. But such communities where thousands of people are living together in harmony, meditating together, and trying to find God. But he also says Master would emphasize cooperative attitudes rather than egoic social and political rights and present day norms of cutthroat competition. And Swamiji also said that forming community is one thing, but it has to be pegged on a high ideal. It can't be, oh yeah, we are all nice people and we are just living together. The egos will come in between. It has to be pegged on a high ideal, and that's the only one, the ideal, that is finding God, making that as the bottom line of these communities. And Swamiji also said that the two very important things, he is called the father of community, okay, because many communities tried to sprout in America, but I don't think many survived. And Swamiji said there were two basic uh, preambles for him. One was people are more important than things. And the second was yato jaya, yato dharma tato jaya, which means where there is truth, there is victory. Where you act according to dharma, there is victory. He said, I always followed these two principles, and we see, I mean, that even after he has and he's trained all his the next in line so well, that even though he's not there in body anymore, it's still functioning just like how Swamiji would have done it, because he trained people in that only. People are always in that, people are more important than things, and yato dharma tato jaya. The more we live through these things, these principles, there cannot be I mean, you always live in harmony. So and he's saying that Master was again and again and again talking about world brotherhood communities, which Swami later on established. And Master, though he was trying his best, even in Encinitas, he had tried to start it. He also had tried to start the school that here he had established so well. But he realized later that people in America were not yet ready. It was still a very materialistic place that he had gone to. And first, the people had to be, I mean, you can't take the kids. They wouldn't be putting their kids there because they themselves aren't yet convinced about this. So, so he kind of abandoned all that. And he then concentrated on who is ready. The monastics were ready. They had given everything. As he says, the families were still not. So he had a bigger mission, which had to go on for number of years, even after he's gone. So those who were ready, he then concentrated on them. So at that time, the monastics were ready, but the seed has been planted. He had spoken about it, so he had planted the seed of these world brotherhood communities in the ether, and they have to, as he's saying, it was in. He's saying that he knew that his dream must, in time, be fulfilled. It has to happen. Now, how long it will take? And then, Swamiji created those communities, and more will come over a period of time. But the seed was planted by Master in those times. So, and that is why it is very important that an avatar comes and he is there on the planet for only a short time of, to. There are a lot of things. Some he is able, he's finishes. Some he just plants a seed and goes. It is imperative on the disciples, the generations of disciples that come on the path to make, to one, continue spreading his mission and to make a lot of those. That is why when Swamiji, he used to say that your work will be to write, and writing and lecturing. And when he would say writing, Swamiji once asked him, "Haven't you written everything? I mean, what can I write it?" He said, "Don't say that. Much needs to be written." And now we see Swamiji had written so much. He used to tune in to Master, and so many books. There are almost 150 books that he has written. So many music he has created. 400 pieces of music. And he said, "I'm not a musician, I'm not a writer." He said, "I tuned into Master what needs." And those books are the ones that are guiding us even today, right? So each one of us, the disciples of such great avatar, we are what, two generations down the line. We are all spiritual warriors for him to continue spreading this mission in this Dwapar Yuga. That this whole planet is filled with this higher consciousness of awakened, in people living in a higher consciousness than what is right now happening in this world. So, and for that to be able to serve the Guru in that sense, what is very important is to stay in tune with the Guru, to meditate, to always practice the presence of God and Guru. What do I do in this situation? How do I serve you? What does this person? This is very important for each one of us. So with that, thank you for joining today. We come to the end of this chapter. We will take up the next one in the next class. That's a very important chapter now. So see you.